Kia ora, Tefano! Welcome everyone that's joining us today. I am Craig Bullickley, Safety and Risk Solutions Lead here at EcoPortal. It's awesome to have you with us here today. Today we have a fantastic session lined up talking about AI-powered risk intelligence, smarter insights, safer workplaces, where we'll explore how AI is transforming the way that we approach health and safety, helping us make more informed decisions, improve visibility of risk, and support safer, more efficient workplaces. I'm delighted to introduce our guest today is Liz Hancock, Health, Safety and Environment Director at DCC Technology out of the UK. She has honoured us with her presence at 4:30 in the morning, her time, so we're looking forward to hearing from her shortly. It'll be a real privilege to have Liz with us today to share her insights on how AI is influencing the future of risk management and workplace safety in Europe and North America. So let's now meet our expert guest. Liz is the Health, Safety and Environment Director at DCC Technology. She brings over 20 years of experience across enforcement, insurance, consultancy, and strategic leadership in health and safety. She's a chartered fellow of IOSH and has led safety initiatives across manufacturing, warehousing, and distribution, with international experience spanning Europe, North America, and Australia. Liz, it's wonderful to have you join us today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, and good morning or good afternoon.
Fantastic. Let's hope that caffeine kicks in and the mind is not active in the 4:30 in the morning. So whether you're already using AI in your safety systems or just starting to explore what's possible, today's session is all about making this space more approachable, more practical, and more relevant to your role. So with that, Liz, over to you.
Good. So AI is not new. It has been around since the 1950s, following World War II, where there was a real need to automate documentation. In the 1970s, it moved into the financial sector around hedge fund and stock market prediction analysis. We moved then into the supply chain, looking at disruption prediction, as well as inventory optimization and supply risk management, useful for our colleagues who are on today who look after sustainability, particularly around Scope 3 projects. We then moved into cybersecurity, where it is commonly used for threat detection and vulnerability assessments. So my question is, why don't we use it more in the health and safety industry? I feel my colleagues in my network is a very, very 50 split. Those who fully embrace AI-powered technology and those who are a bit cautious of it. The natural fear, I think, is around job loss. Are the robots going to take my job away from me? There's also people who are worried that we will become reliant on AI as a source and a tool. A little bit of worry about misinterpretation of data, because ultimately, if we get things wrong in the world of health and safety, our people could get hurt. So where is it a good place to use AI? I feel that over the recent years, since embracing AI and chat functions such as Copilot, I personally have advanced as a safety professional. What I use it for is to help me write health and safety policies, health and safety programs for my colleagues in the US, around things like drafting tenders and creating board presentations. It is really helpful to generate deep dive data as well. In terms of a real life example, very recently we have been tendering for our health and safety management software. This was quite a large purchase, and we had some really in-depth requirements around international usage, around language, around cybersecurity, and the way our colleagues can access it. I used Copilot to help me write this tender. I specifically asked it very in-depth questions to help me pull together this documentation. What happened was the documentation took me, in reality, about a few hours, 3 hours to pull together. Once Copilot created that documentation for me, I personalized it, made sure it was specific to my industry, specific to my requirements, instead of doing the time myself, which probably would have taken me in reality 3 days. So it's great to give you back your time. As a health and safety professional, I would also say my ethos is around operations owning health and safety. I am here as an advisory function. to support them, but they must own that on the shop floor themselves. To be able to do that, AI really helps them. It is a tool to help with hazard identification and hazard controls. So really helps them cut out the red tape. I would also say where appropriate. And what I mean by that is there are lots and lots of different softwares out there. Another used example that we have is AI technology that scans over CCTV. I have found this in the past to be really, really effective. What this technology can do is it can look for ergonomic mistakes, it can look for vehicle pedestrian interaction, it can highlight where colleagues shouldn't be, where you have restricted areas, and give you real-time notifications that can also go directly to your colleagues. When I've used this in the past, I have found it to be incredibly helpful. We had a situation quite a while ago where we had ergonomic risk. We had colleagues injuring themselves and taking time off, but also putting claims in. We used this technology, and within a very short period of time, it was able to highlight what the problems were. It was quite intricate, and our health and safety professionals in the business at the time hadn't highlighted it, as well as our operational teams. So we found it really, really useful. We were then able to design out the ergonomic risks by implementing pallet lifters that come to waist height to reduce the need to stoop and bend. As a result, we were able to reduce these type of incidents by 65%. And not only that, but we were able to get a premium reduction, which is quite impressive, really, considering the amount of work and the amount of places that we have in terms of our premiums. So all of this does not go without a few words of warning. In the scenarios I've mentioned before, it should never, ever, ever be the only source of information. It will only get you 70 or 80% of the way there. We still, as health and safety professionals, have to put the hard work in. I would also say the data that you ask in a chat function is only as good as the data that you put in. The output will be limited if your input is limited. I would also say consider any in-house policies around AI and be really respectful of that. There will be a very carefully considered AI policy within your workplace. It will talk about things like open sources, it will talk about customer and colleague data, and things like GDPR and data protection as well. So just make sure you read them, make sure you understand it, make sure you follow it, and make sure you're very respectful of it. And if you don't know, ask your colleagues in the legal team.
Liz, in that
So
space
we're
there, just going back to the previous slide around adopting and the security measures and things. Have you seen any companies that have gone, you know what, it's too difficult, it's too hard, we're not going to apply or allow any type of AI components in terms of either like the examples you use, creating documentation or analyzing data? If some companies out there still going just hard no?
No, I personally haven't found a hard no, but then again, I do push the envelope with my colleagues quite aggressively because I'm so keen on the use of AI. There will be things around protecting your customer data. There will be things around protecting your colleagues' data. I've never seen a hard no, particularly around the use of for like writing policies, for writing tender documents. And quite often it will be encouraged as well, is what I'm finding.
So the benefits, as long as it's managed correctly, the benefits are well over prioritizing the potential negatives. Or is it the case of most of the risk that was originally suspected at the original times has been now, there's a lot more confidence in the AI outcomes, as long as you have also those security protocols and policies in house?
I would say so. I would say that we're seeing it more actively encouraged as well, due to the time saving element. My example around the health and safety management system. Genuinely, to write that document, it was 26 pages long. It had all sort of the security elements in it, which my colleagues in IT helped with. It had comprehensive list of outputs I needed, things like dashboards, risk assessments, all those various different things. That genuinely would have taken me quite some time to write from scratch. Again, in reality, it took 3 hours. So I think my colleagues will be delighted that I'm able to then utilise that time on other health and safety projects and other ways to keep our colleagues safe. So I would go so far as to say, actively encouraged, particularly where time is saved.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So where do I think it is an unsafe place to use AI in safety? So I'm going to say risk assessments. And I don't mean risk assessments in terms of the hazard identification and the hazard controls. I mean the risk assessment in its totality. So, as our safety colleagues on the call know, the most important part of the risk assessment is implementing those further controls. Now, unless you've got some really cool robots, they're not going to do things like install fixed guards for you. They're not going to mount that new signage that is required. They're not going to, ensure that that training has fully been delivered. So I absolutely love it for, hazard identification and suggesting control measures. But in its totality, it needs to be, our safety professionals will always have a secure role because we're the people who need to make sure that those extra control measures are put into place. In terms of emergency response, again, I love using it for emergency response plans. I think it's really helpful. It is so clever that you can put in territory specific. It will even help you via zip or postcode to highlight national disasters that might happen in that area. So, when we looked at one of our sites in the US to help us write an emergency response plan for there, it knew that it was in a tornado area. Again, likewise in the UK, it knew that we were in a flood risk area. So these are all really useful things that you potentially don't know unless you do quite a bit of research into your into the natural areas around your sites. What I don't think it is useful for is in the event of an emergency. So I really wouldn't want my colleagues, say for example, there was a fire in one of our workplaces, to take pictures, upload it into Copilot and say, what do I do in the event of this emergency? Which I don't think any of my colleagues would, but I think it's worth noting that, in the case of an emergency, you should have your plan in place already and you should be following that. Very recently, I've heard about some colleagues using it for predictive analysis. That's great if it's proven. So the use case where with the CCTV software that we use, it does have predictive analysis, but it has access to quite a lot of historic CCTV footage. So it is proven, and it will be able to highlight things that potentially will happen because of forklift truck movement and those kind of things. If it is unproven, please don't rely on it for predicting trends or incidents that are going to happen in your workplace. One that I am really passionate about, and safety professionals, generally are passionate about, is their integrity. So for myself, with being a member of IOSH, I have to follow the code of practice. So using AI to cheat is not a particularly, a great place to use AI. So what I mean by cheating is if you are, on a course and you have assignments to complete, don't use AI to complete those assignments. Don't use it to I don't think it's particularly great to use to write cover letters. I think they should be quite personal when applying for jobs. By all means, use it to review your CV and give some suggestions. But again, only implement those suggestions if they are actually relevant to you. I think it's quite interesting as well, AI. So quite a lot of test organisations can run assignments through another AI software actually that will highlight the use of AI. And I did fall foul of this when I was doing a recent qualification. It highlighted that I had used AI where I hadn't, but it actually picked up my references because they were taken verbatim from the source. So I literally copied and pasted the source. It was absolutely fine. You know, it wasn't highlighted as an issue, but it was an automated process where they run it, and it says, you know, 20% of your assignment is has been written through AI, which I thought was actually quite interesting. And then when I dove deeper with my tutor, we found out that was the reason. So, how can we transform the workplace training and leadership with AI? So, I unfortunately haven't been able to land a virtual reality project. I think it is absolutely fascinating, some of the tools that are on the market in terms of immersive simulation, scenario-based learning. So close to getting it over the line in the rail sector. Reviewed a virtual reality immersive simulation that literally had you trackside, and it showed you in reality what it was like to work in quite a dangerous area, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I am so keen to get this over the line in some forum or another. You know, the scenario-based learning, again, I've seen some fantastic tools specifically around health and safety. So things like forklift trucks. What would you do if a forklift truck hit racking? What would you do in a case of a fire or a fall from height? Some really, really cool stuff on the internet. What I would also say is personalised training plans. So I'm very keen on developing myself as a professional in areas where I think that I haven't got the knowledge or the skills. I use Copilot to help me write my CPD plan. So I basically pop in where I want to be in 3 years' time, and ask it, you know, what programs it can help me get there, what training I need to get there, what experience I need. And it's absolutely amazing to help you on that plan. I would say that I've used that now for about 10 years and I have always achieved my goals. So I would definitely encourage the use of that as well. Real-time feedback. So again, just referring back to my experience with AI in CCTV, you know, where that software is in use, it can literally ping a text message, an email to your colleagues to say, hey, do you realise you're not lifting correctly right now? Without supervising absolutely every colleague, that's just that extra colleague on the shop floor helping out our colleagues to remember to lift correctly, remember to stay away from that forklift truck, remembering that area we shouldn't enter. So that real-time feedback is in itself a form of training. It's essentially a behavioural observation just being done by an AI, and helping our colleagues. So loving using AI to help with creating interactive models, you know, e-learning modules and things like that. So I think there is a real, you know, place in the market for e-learning. I like training face to face, but I do think, you know, for the lower risk activities, interactive e-learning is great. And AI can help you. It can give you, you know, various different videos. It can give you different scenarios. Historically as well, in the past, I've used 360 cameras to take pictures of the workplace, where then colleagues can feel like they're actually in the workplace. They can highlight hazards. You can show them where all your things like fire extinguisher, your emergency exits, even before they get to site, and they will all automatically feel like they've been to site. This is great for workplaces that use things like agency staff, and you know, have lots of contractors coming into site as well. So I think in terms of training, AI can be really transformative.
Liz,
So in terms,
on
oh,
that,
go on.
sorry, I'm going to jump in again. Liz, just interestingly,
Sure.
I was at an event, a World Safety event, World Safety Day event on Monday in transport, and there was a couple of really interesting presenters there. One from the training organisation. So he made a comment. I'd love to actually get your thoughts on it. So it was all around using AI, exactly as you were talking about before, around personalised training for variety of scenarios. And he was talking around the world is moving to this space, but it's not quite there yet, where you could ask AI to say, look, I've got a brand new workplace. We're now working at height. at over 5 meters high and using this type of equipment in this type of environment. AI, can you please create 4 different virtual reality training modules to then be able to roll out to the staff? He was saying in little New Zealand that we're not quite there yet. AI is not quite there yet to deliver almost instant or new training modules on the fly. Is that the case from what you've seen worldwide, that technology is not quite there yet to deliver like
Um,
instant, brand new, personalized training, and in this case it was VR training experiences using maybe like 3 random protocols?
I'm not sure I fully agree with that. I have to say, I think training comes in lots of different forms. So things like safe systems of work, toolbox talks, and it can deep search the internet for existing available and free content. So
Hmm.
um, in terms of VR, potentially, I would agree with that because a lot of work and effort goes into creating those submersive
Mm,
simulations. So, but training comes in different formats for me. So, can it help you create a toolbox talk for working at height on a MEUP? Yes, it can.
yeah.
Again, the big caveat for this, it'll get you 70% of the way there. It won't be complete. So, colleagues, we need to, make sure that we look at that and say, is that right for my particular site? So, for example, it might not know that you have, I don't know, for example, working at height, it might not know that you have a man-safe system on the roof, a line where you can hatch onto. So again, when you put the information in, make sure you are super clear of what controls you have, what controls you don't have as well. And then obviously it will suggest any further controls that you need. But yeah, not sure I fully
Mm,
agree, but I
mm,
think,
cool.
I get the VR bit.
Yep. Yeah, awesome. One of the other presenters was a mobile AI camera that basically that downers one of our larger infrastructure organizations roll out to roadwork sites that might only be there for a week, but they're able to easily set up go zones that when the AI learning engine is looking at 24/7, and if something happens, it pings instantly that notification to the manager or to the site leader on site, and they can act reactive. They can act immediately in that particular space, and that's exactly what you're talking about in terms of the other
Yeah.
example, wasn't it? Using that CCTV to instantly, not retrospectively, but instantly get an outcome, a positive outcome from that experience.
Yeah, lots of experience having implemented that, and I think it's invaluable to me. And I'm hoping that we see it move into individual cameras. So I don't work in that particular space, but I know that a lot of retail and security colleagues now wear individual camera devices. I would love to see if it could move into those type of technologies, which I'm
Mm,
sure it will do because it's moving at such a speed. If I was working in retail and security, it would be something that I would be pushing with a supplier to say, can you put this on my personalized tech as well? So I think lots of change, lots of transformation coming out of AI that can be really helpful and predictive and ultimately keep our colleagues safe, right, when they're out and about.
exactly. Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so in terms of leadership, data-driven insights, the more information you have, particularly around your closed source AI, the more information you can get out. So things like highlighting hotspots in particular workspaces where you can react, highlighting particular trends. So for myself, I work in warehousing and distribution. AI has highlighted very recently a trend where we would see an increase in incidents, not with a severe outcome, so an increase in near misses. And it was that intellectual, it told me what the issues were. So they knew it was around manual handling and it knew it was around forklift truck interaction. And that took 3 years worth of data and said, every peak you are going to see this increase, which meant that we could be super reactive, like super proactive, sorry. So what we did is we did a campaign where we had some pop-up banners. We were able to put those in the hotspot areas. We were able to do regular toolbox talks just on that area around Black Friday and just on those things. And I genuinely believe, this has genuinely happened. We did not see that peak increase this year. So it can be really helpful for your leadership teams, and be really, really precise around risk, location, and and actually help you create a plan to prevent those peaks and troughs as well. So really, really cool. I love using it as well for designing out risk. So I'm a big fan of the hierarchy of control. If you take a picture of a workspace, load it into Copilot and say, can you highlight the risks? It will tell you all the risks. And then if you say to it, can you then give me some ways to design out this risk? It will absolutely do that for you. And again, putting that into a risk assessment place, fantastic. So use photos, use videos, and it will really help with operational efficiency as well. So all of this, I think, will help with a cultural transformation. So if you are on a journey to transform your culture, I think the only way that you can do that now, we're in an era where AI is going to play a really important part for that. So, looking back on the poll area, earlier, if you haven't, definitely consider embracing it and using it, in all the ways that I'm hopefully going to suggest to you in this session. So I just wanted to put some information in here about legal and ethical considerations for the responsible use of AI. GDPR, big thing across every country that I operate in, although it is applied differently in different areas. So I know that I've mentioned the CCTV. The CCTV software is able to blur images of faces. It is able to actually completely replace a colleague with a mannequin as well. So again, don't be frightened to look into that from a GDPR point of view, particularly if you operate within Europe, where the requirements are really quite strict. So the other thing I will say is data bias. So if your data is naturally biased, the output you will get is also going to be naturally biased, which can be helpful actually. So, in the scenario that I mentioned earlier around my incident, that was biased data that I put in. I'm very, very clear that that was biased data. And the information that I got out had that control measures in it. However, if I hadn't have been sort of more aware of my business data, I might not have seen the right results from that project. So I will just put that in as a, responsible use. Make sure what you're putting in has no bias to it. I am a big environmentalist. So what I will say as well is a Copilot search, one Copilot search, depending on the depth of the search, has around the same environmental impact as the use of a laptop for a day, which may seem small, but when you start adding, when it starts giving you suggestions, that's another search. And then when you add more suggestions, that's another search. So there is an environmental impact on using chat functions. You still got Google, so that doesn't have the same environmental impact, and I think those things can be used simultaneously, AI and Google, and you don't always have to accept the suggestions as well. So Copilot's really good at saying, would you like to add this to your policy? Would you like to add that? Don't just add it. Add it if you think it is useful to your colleagues. Add it if you think it is useful to your business as well. And also, I'm going to put the, responsible use. Do not become over reliant on it. I would say that I would use it, 2 or 3 times a week, maybe. I don't over rely on AI. I do still sit down with my data. I do still look at everything in quite detail. So, just again, a bit of a caveat about the responsible usage.
Liz,
So,
on the GDPR, just there's a couple of questions that have come through in the chat that I might bring up now because they're really relevant. Andrea has asked a question that everyone always seems to default to when they are starting to go through the AI journey, which is, and she's asked the questions, would it not be perceived as spying based on your conversation around using CCTV and picking up activities and things? I think you've answered that pretty well in the case that you are able to depersonalize where required. Yes. But if you take away just the negative component of that, what are the other approaches that companies might take when looking at that, or announcing that they're going to use AI tech, and there is a knee-jerk or a default negative reaction from staff because they do feel their personal image, or they may be, maybe used as a discipline as opposed to a a learning experience?
No, I totally understand that. And when I have implemented that project in the past, it has been a full project. So I run it in such a way that we have actually discussed it with colleagues. So there's in my mind there was a kickback immediately from uh, uh, legal teams to around GDPR, which we quickly got over by showing them we could change it for mannequins and blur out faces. And my point was, well, we have CCTV anyway, so we must have controls for that. Which actually you go, oh yeah, I do actually already have CCTV, and I do actually already use it for accident investigation. So what's this doing differently? This is helping our colleagues. Again, I have never implemented that project without sitting down with either safety reps or the worker representatives in Europe, in particular around in France, working with the union as well, to help implement that. So it's never just been bang, it's in your warehouse, off you go, this is happening. It's always been run as a project, always consulted with staff. And I've never, when I've done that, never had the kickback from the colleagues. I'm literally in the US next week, and we are looking to implement it in a warehouse. And that is the approach I'm taking. I'm sitting with the colleagues. So we have around 25 representatives. We're talking about safety in general. I'm going to show them the program. I'm going to say, look, we're hoping this will work within your workplace. It's all about keeping you safe. You already have CCTV. We're going to blare it all out. It won't be used for disciplinary purposes. It will purely be used to look for hotspots so that we can, design out risk, because that is what we're using it for. So it's a very carefully considered project. It's not just chucked in a warehouse and hope, here you go, guys, this is new.
We had we have a client called Nexus in Auckland, who one of the early adopters with AI, and they have a really beautiful integration with their AI reporting system and CO and Eco Portal. They had the similar situation that you had in terms of the initial hesitation from a lot of the staff, but they found when they empowered their team leaders at their second from bottom hierarchy and got them on board by showing that this new AI powered CCTV analysis tool is doing two things. It's a really powerful learning tool for them as team leaders by playing back footage to those involved, to raise awareness of the boundaries and what could happen if the rules or the protocols aren't followed, and how it's all about education. It's not about discipline. So no one that was maybe caught on the CCTV was disciplined. It was always used as a learning opportunity, and that made huge inroads in terms of trusting the component. Safety being used as a carrot, not as a stick, right? And then second, though, further maybe a little bit more up the chain, it really helped improve work design because it closed that gap of work as imagined versus work as done. You're using real world insights. Look, I can see that these things have happened on the CCTV that have picked up on certain situations that no one else has ever seen before because they've always been hidden or in a place that no one was really watching. And that then created a safer, more efficient workplace, and work got done so much better and more efficiently and safer. So once the why was explained, but the actual results then continually came through, it was incredible. I mean, this is a company that they had, as soon as they turned on this AI-powered CCTV and picked things up, they found 25 near-death events in the first 3 hours. And it was like, okay, this was the right reason to do this.
You will absolutely see that.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And they never picked up on those particular components. And as soon as they started to learn from those experiences, the reports came down, the actual severity of incidents that were reported decreased. And as I understand, it's a company that everyone is now trusting and actively promotes the system.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
two things I just want to. I gave a bit of a wry smile around the policies. Ironically, I got AI to write my policy for the implementation of AI CCTV, and really interestingly, it came up with different suggestions for different territories as well. So again, it took into
mm,
consideration the different territory specific legislation around
yep.
GDPR and those kind of things. And then you did make me laugh about the near death. What we actually did with our provider is send them some sample footage. So we gave them 15 minutes from 20 different cameras, and they put together a sample video for us, which was strikingly, a motivator to the operational teams. So not so much near death, but quite a lot of things. And
Mm,
we've chosen very sophisticated safety. In terms of the culture warehouses, we didn't put it in the warehouses that we didn't think were there, because I was like, well, we'll just get notifications every 5 minutes, knowing that we haven't got all the right measures in place already. So this to me is when you get to a cultural place where you're quite mature, and your
mm,
warehouse can support all those notifications, because like you say, when you initially install it, you will see quite a lot of you know things that you need to work on. So yeah.
yep. Interesting point as well you made around the difference in using AI to allow the anomalies or the differences between locations and provide further guidance of that. I'm quite siloed in my world in AI in terms of health and safety management software, but we've found it incredibly helpful when we're building AI-powered guidance within our templates. That we've got a lot of clients in Australia, of which different states have different regulations, different requirements, different regulatory bodies that require different reactions to events. And so, say if I'm using a smart assistant to advise me whether I need to notify this event, or what regulations do I need to be getting corrective actions to fulfill. It can go, well, I see you're in Victoria. This is the requirement, or this is the regulatory compliant need, or this is what its notifiable event would look like. Whereas if I was in New South Wales or WA, it would provide a different reaction to that. And that's incredibly powerful for, I can confidently trust my system that's AI powered to deliver me the exact information for my location, which is not hard coded, which, yeah, super helpful.
And to just
Cool.
lean into that a little bit more, you can also upload guidance documents and ask it to take that into consideration. So if you are looking to, implement a new policy around, I don't know, vehicle pedestrian segregation, you can upload the ISO standard for vehicle pedestrian segregation, and not only will it take the territory specific information into its search, but it will also take the highlight the pieces out of like the ISO standard.
Mm-hmm.
So not only will it know where you are, but if you upload information that you want it to look at, it will take out the key points for you as well.
Cool. I'll leave you to it.
Okie dokie. Yeah, we are just coming to my last slide around real world examples where I've used it. So, I mean, I have referred to quite a lot of examples as I've gone through my presentation. So, again, making sure that you look, whatever you use it for is industry specific. And again, it's all about that initial search that you put into your AI function, really. So I use it for policy writing. I use it for procedure writing, for safety program writing. I use it for defining existing documents as well, and refining them, and updating them. So I can say, I'll upload a lotto program from America and say, is this still relevant? Can you update this with any new information around lockout, tag out in this particular territory, etc.? And then it will give me the things that I'm potentially missing to add in. Again, just going to say, great for board reports. Every time the month comes to that end of the month where you're writing your board reports, historically, without using AI, I would be dreading, drudging through the data, putting it into an Excel spreadsheet, bringing out a pie chart, whereas I no longer have to do that. It knows automatically what I need from it. So we have a specific subscription to a PowerPoint AI tool within my current business, which is absolutely amazing. It does help create those visuals. It does do those deep dives for us on the data set, so it's really good. Again, hazards, highlighting hazards and controls. So, taking pictures of, I don't know, whatever, a shrink wrap machine, and it's coming out with saying, oh, you need barriers around it. You could need an automatic stop. It needs, to be protected from various different things, electricity, etc., etc. So really good for that kind of stuff. Training, again, I think we spoke about that a lot earlier, and where it's useful. And where do I think the advancements will go? I'm seeing some loads of really good stuff coming up on LinkedIn. Robots that can do things like going around your workplace, checking that signage is still in place. I think removing those tedious tasks that just need to be done from a safety point of view, those things that you can't really steer away from, but give people the safety ick, if you like, those weekly checks, those monthly checks. I think the idea of a safety robot taking the time instead of our colleagues to do that, seems to be a very good a way to do things. So I'm looking at those as well. The CCTV software, like I say, I think that will develop more. The provider that we're using can go on any camera, so they can go on fisheyes, 360 cameras, but I'd like to think it can go on dash cams, potentially on individual cameras. So keep an eye out for what's on that. And then again, that integration with wearables, other things like RFID tags that slow trucks down when you get closer to them. Can we use it there as well? So I think the workspace is moving really quickly in terms of AI, and I'm really excited about it. So just again, some things to just sort of leave you with. Make sure you do your research on any tools that you're looking to implement. Involve the stakeholders. So make sure your legal team are involved, your IT team are involved, your HR team are involved. But don't be afraid. Tread with caution, yeah, sure, but don't be afraid to embrace it. So that's me done.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz. That was absolutely brilliant. I've got an absolute stack of questions. First question from Lou. For those that are just starting to explore AI, and we know there was a big chunk of people that hadn't ever started it or just started to look, what's a good low risk but maybe high impact way to try and use it using the current safety systems?
Sorry, you cut out. I'm so sorry, you cut out there, Craig.
That's right. What's a really good low risk but maybe high impact way to try using our current safety systems? So what's a nice, simple, safe way of integrating AI?
Well, I'm just seeing Jason's comment around using AI voice recorder, and I think, what a life changer that is. So I'm dyslexic, and I really struggle, with writing policies, procedures. I love that you're talking about, getting statements and having them done through the voice recorder. Game changer, simple. Simple technology will help you transcribe, documents. I mean, I virtually don't type things anymore. I do them on voice recorder, so it's quite clever. And then, I can't imagine any workspaces that don't have a chat function such as Copilot. I think most organisations will have embraced that, by now. And wow, yeah, just slowly starting to use it to review policies would be my first place to start. Review, a policy that's coming up for renewal, chuck it in Copilot or whatever function you have and see what it comes out with. And I think you will be blown away with what it comes out with. So yeah, start slow, policies, the hierarchy of documents, go there.
Couple of questions asking about what programs to recommend. So you just had a couple. I know because there's the two combinations, right? We have something like EcoPortal that's got AI functionality built into our management system, smart assistant, smart form finder, you can have smart summaries. But then you've got your standalone AI software, and you've mentioned a couple. What other ones that do either you use or your clients use that might be off the box, sorry, off the shelf, or publicly available, either free or paid? What is your experience?
So Copilot is awesome. I think they're at most it's free for most sort of Microsoft subscribers, right? So like absolutely brilliant. ChatGPT. I know that you can have that with a subscription. So its functionality in different territories is variable. So I know, for example, in Sweden it doesn't let you upload photos without being a subscriber, whereas in the UK it does. So I use that from a personal point of view, help me design my workspace behind me. And then the other things that I've seen used. There's one called Gaunt, and it helps with maths and things like that. So yeah, they're the ones that I would say are the obvious and easy and the free ones to use as well.
But I assume there's being AI is the buzzword at the moment. Sort of has taken over psychosocial as the new buzzy health and safety fad. There's going to be new technology out all the time, in any proper company with its salt and
Absolutely, yeah.
space will be having
And
some
just,
AI.
again, always go with caution. So, I've watched my two children embrace AI because, mum's a fan, big tech fan as well. And they've used it to do their homework where they can literally take a photograph and it will give them the mathematical answer. So those were promptly removed from said devices. So yeah, just take a little look as well.
Could AI be used? Could AI use a video of a task to break it down for training purposes?
Yes, that's a function that I use it for. Yeah, video and a task. Yeah, and it will highlight if your colleagues are doing things unsafely during that test as well. I think one to note is sometimes AI sees things that aren't there. So an example, a really good example was when I was delivering training with our operational teams, and we went on the shop floor and I got them to do, to highlight the hazards themselves. And then I suggested that they use AI to look for hazards for them. And it picked up a shiny floor as a spill, which was
Interesting. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, but I also said a spill could happen, right? So it also picked up something as a ladder that wasn't a ladder, so it highlighted a working at height risk, and it was actually a bookshelf. So again, that's why the screening of it, and not the reliance on it, and the fact that it will get you 70-80% of the way there is really important to remember as well.
It's a great 70% tool, but you have to have that human
Yeah.
element on, because that, of course, then gives the confidence from everyone else, right? That we're not just accepting what the robot's telling us. There is a human element to any outcomes from the AI work.
Yeah, definitely.
New question for you. How do you see, or do you have an opinion on how AI can play a role in strengthening psychological safety, especially in high
Ooh.
risk or high pressure industries?
I'm going to politely decline and say no, but I love that. And I'm going to have a
Mm,
look at it now. I'm sure there must be some use
mm.
cases, right?
There's
I've
nothing
not
obvious that
personally
comes
come
straight to
across it.
mind.
Yeah,
Mm.
no, I think, I think for the past sort of 10 years, I've worked in either manufacturing or logistics. So the manufacturing potentially having more of the psycho. So yeah, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. But making a note to go and look at it.
Yep. Good
Good
stuff.
question.
A really good question here. Two others actually. I'll go to Jason straight away. Are there any courses available that combine health and safety with AI? Or do you know of any that might be released in the near future? I know from Jason from New Zealand, I'm not sure whether you're New Zealand or Australia based. I haven't specifically seen anything that's been built in New Zealand, maybe in Australia. Anything overseas, UK or Europe or US?
I
Liz?
can't confirm yet, but I am in the process of this week reviewing the new IOSH Level 6 course, because a colleague is interested in doing it. So I don't know whether that does. I do think we should start training our safety teams. So I personally always add an AI element into any training that I deliver. So I do deliver IOSH Managing Safely, IOSH Working Safely, and we do deliver OSHA 30 and OSHA 10. And I will actively take our colleagues on the shop floor when I'm teaching them about risk assessment, and I will actively show them how to use hazard controls, hazard identification controls, and obviously, things like emergency planning, auditing and things like that. So I don't know if it's built into training programs just yet, but I would suggest that you build it into training programs to, again, particularly because when we're delivering training around like health and safety management, we're trying to make our management teams' life easier. So why would we not be teaching them about that? The technology's there. We should be embracing it really. And every time I've done it, they've been like, "Wow, how good's that?" And you're like, "It's quite good, isn't it?" I feel like I invented it, and I'm like, I didn't invent it. So yeah, it's cool.
Are there any mobile AI apps that assesses unsafe behaviors, conditions, and provides feedback to the user? I assume, can I just download an app from the App Store, user activate the phone, the camera, film my workplace, and then get some instant feedback?
So
I personally haven't seen any. I would be worried that you would really need to make sure that you're fulfilling your company's, security and AI GDPR or security components, not just take it on yourself to do that. But in terms of if the actual app exists, I haven't seen one of those off the shelf.
Not an
Are
off-the-shelf
there any
app
that exist?
that's not that I've seen, again, specifically around safety. But Copilot essentially does that. You can take a video and you can put it into Copilot and say, highlight the unsafe issues, or highlight how this colleague can be doing this safer, and it will give you that. So yeah, I think not that I've seen a specific one, but you could adopt.
Try that. That sounds like a plan. Last question. How do you strike the balance between AI generated insights and frontline intuition or experience, especially if there is a conflict between the two? So it's a really great question, great one to end. So AI is saying this, your gut or your experience or your intuition is saying that. How do you strike a balance between what wins?
I would always go with gut. I can't imagine a world of safety where you're not present on the shop floor. So this is more about me as a safety professional. Spending time on the shop floor with colleagues will never replace AI. It won't remove those leadership conversations that you have with colleagues, those just genuine, how can we make your workplace safer? Do you really follow your safe systems of work? Have we got it wrong? Have we got it right? You will never ever replace those genuine conversations, and you won't replace spending time in your operations to learn where your risks are. So I would always go with your gut over what the system says, what over a chat says. And again, that perfect example of the shiny floor stroke spillage, the bookcase, which was a ladder. And again, just, that's why you can't rely on AI. 70% of the way there, if not, higher in some cases and lower in other cases. So it's your friend, it's your helper, but it is not your superior.
Oh, what a great statement to end on. I think that's a wrap for today. Thank you, Liz. A big thank you again to Liz for sharing your time and expertise, and to all of you for joining us today. A really big thanks to the EcoPortal team for putting this all together. Thank you, Liz, for getting up so early today and sharing your really interesting insights and experience. So yeah, a final thank you to you.
Thanks, everyone.
Also, thank you for listening to safetyCast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share with your colleagues, because safety knowledge is meant to be shared. Stay safe, stay engaged, and be sure to catch our next episode for more expert insights. See you then.